Synaptic communication by Cassandra Arrington. In synaptic communication, the first step starts in the neuron. In the neuron, there is an axon. An axon is a thread-like part of a nerve cell that has dendrite, soma, or body, nucleus, and then axon terminals. This is how the signal is traveled throughout the neuron. As soon as a signal hits the axon hillock, the action potential begins. In an action potential, the threshold is the intensity it must exceed for a reaction to occur. During this action potential, it goes through depolarization and repolarization. Depolarization is when the sodium ions, or Na, rush into the cell's membrane, making it more positive. On this diagram, you can see as it goes up, the Na flows into the cell, which make it more positive. When repolarization comes to play, the potassium channel opens and potassium goes out of the cell's membrane. The potassium channel closes slowly, which makes the cell extremely negative. So when potassium channel opens, the cell becomes negative, negative, negative. Oh, it got really negative. And the term for this is hyperpolarization, because the potassium channel closes slowly, more potassium go out of the cell. To make the resting potential back to normal, the sodium-potassium pump comes to play as well. So after this happens, the signal goes to the end of the neuron or axon terminal. The process in which the neuron receives information is called the synapse. As the neurotransmitters travel down the axon and enters through the presynaptic neuron, it begins exocytosis. The two classes of neuron transmitters, sodium and calcium, go into the cell, causing depolarization, which promotes action potentials not only in the axon terminal, but in the action potential itself, when it goes down the length of the axon. For exocytosis to occur, calcium ions need to be inside the axon terminal. So there are calcium ions outside. So for them to be inside the neuron, there are L-type voltage-gated calcium ion channels for the calcium ions to come through and get into the neuron. The L-type voltage-gated ion channel regulates calcium into excitable cells. Once the neurotransmitters are outside of the axon terminal, they go to the synaptic cleft, which is the space between the axon terminal and the other neuron or muscle. From there, the neurotransmitter will attach itself to a neurotransmitter receptor and are now in the postsynaptic neuron. Now that the neurotransmitters are through this channel, they will either reach another neuron or go into the muscles, causing action potentials to help the body react. So this is synaptic cleft, and then this is the postsynaptic neuron. So after the neurotransmitters come out of the postsynaptic neuron and through the synaptic cleft, they will go through these receptors or ionotropic receptor and come into the postsynaptic neuron. And that is how synaptic communication works.